Good evening, everyone. Our topic of today's presentation is Sitecore XM Cloud Content SDK. So, my name is Nikita and I'm working as a technical lead in Merkle. I am certified in Sitecore version 9, 10, XM Cloud, and Sitecore CDP. Apart from that, I keep on contributing to the community through various groups and channels.
Hi everyone, I'm Shreyansh. I currently work as a tech lead at Merkle.
So, let's talk about today's agenda. Firstly, we'll talk about what is Sitecore Content SDK. Then we'll be seeing its features. Then we'll be talking about the architecture as to how Content SDK is built. Then how we can get started with installing Content SDK. Then how we can link our application with XM Cloud. Then we will see how we can create a basic component in Content SDK. Then we'll be talking about the differences between Content SDK and JSS SDK. What are the upgrading steps from JSS SDK to Content SDK? And then we have the demo. So, what is Content SDK? It's a new and open source development kit that helps the developers to seamlessly integrate our XM Cloud content with our modern front end JavaScript application. So, how it functions is it includes all the specialized APIs and services that helps in fetching the data from the experience edge in our XM Cloud, which helps in building the dynamic pages that the user sees when they visit the website. It works on the modern JavaScript frameworks like Next.js and Angular. How we can get started with it is we have a starters kit template that you can easily download, which helps us in generating the Content SDK app. What are its features? First one is it reduces the complexity. So with using Content SDK, all our applications are approximately 49% smaller than how we used to build our application using the JSS SDK. It's easy to maintain as in Content SDK, we have 80%, 81% less files and 39% of less code. It's smaller in size and the load time of the website is much faster when the websites are built on Content SDK. Then for visual editing, we have XM Cloud Page Builder. So here we do not use Experience Editor anymore. Rapid development can be done. So it comes with a new starter kit repository that helps us in quickly getting started. So here is the image of how the architecture works in Content SDK. As we can see, we have our Content SDK using the GraphQL APIs. So all our layouts, dictionary, site, and item data is fetched from Experience Edge in the JSON format. In our application, we have three types of renderings that we use to build the page. First one is the build time or the static rendering. Second is the server rendering, and the third one is the client side rendering. All of it fetches the data in the JSON format from the experience edge and it converts the data that we are getting from experience edge in the HTML format, which is then gets rendered in our client browser. Media files can be directly passed from experience edge to our client browsers. Then let's see what are the differences between JSS SDK versus Content SDK. With JSS SDK, it can be worked in XM, XP, and XM Cloud, whereas Content SDK can only be used in XM Cloud. Components in JSS SDK can be auto mapped in our builder, But in Content SDK, we need to manually register the component in our component map.ts file. All the environment variables that we use in JSS SDK, we have like Sitecore API key, Sitecore API host, whereas all the environment variables we use in Content SDK, we prefix it with next underscore public underscore. JSS SDK supports Experience Editor, whereas Content SDK supports XM Cloud Page Builder. Now, what are the upgrading steps from JSS SDK to Content SDK? So to upgrade, firstly, we need to install the Content SDK. We'll be showing the demo how you can install the Content SDK. After installing, you can uninstall your JSS SDK. Then we need to update the environment variables. All the environment variables can be found from our developer settings in our XM Cloud. Then we need to replace GraphQL client with GraphQL request client from our Content SDK. Then all the queries needs to be updated. We now in our Content SDK, we use direct GraphQL query instead of layout services. And after making all the changes, you can validate the components whether they are in editable mode in XM Cloud pages or not. So how we can get started, how you can install Content SDK, how a component can be built, all of it we'll be showing via demo. So Shreyansh, can you please share your screen?
Sure. Thank you, Nikita. I'll pull up my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. So before you get started with the Content SDK, make sure that the system that you're working on has Node.js installed, and you can, since Content SDK is only compatible with XM Cloud, make sure that you have valid license for the Sitecore Cloud Portal as well. So to install your starter kit, you need to run this command npx content sdk create sitecore next.js. I'll be running that command right now. So let me create a new folder first. Let me SUG blr content SDK. You need to run this command npx sitecore content sdk create sitecore js next.js. So what it will do is it will create the I mean in whichever folder you have provided, whichever path you have given, it will download the starter kit and it will create the project head project for you. So once you run this command, it will ask you whether you need to create a server side rendering or a static side generation rendering. So what is the difference between SSG and SSR? Uh, in SSG, what happens? Your output HTML that is created during the build time. But in server side rendering, every time the request goes to your server. So in case, let's say you are creating a static website where the changes are not done frequently, it is suggested to create SSG. In case there are frequent changes, there are dynamic changes, it is recommended to use SSR. So I'll provide, yes, I am creating a SSG as of now. And once I select the folder path and I give the type of pre-render that I want to select for my application, it will start installing the packages in your folder and it will download the code for you. Once that is done, the first step is you need to download the starter kit. The second step is you would need to also install the Content SDK CLI. So you cannot use your JSS CLI anymore. The commands are different. So that is why Sitecore has come up with a new CLI for Content SDK, which you need to install via the command npm install Sitecore Content SDK CLI. So once this installation is completed, I would be running this CLI command. Meanwhile, I'll go to the XM Cloud portal. So these are multiple projects that we have already created in a Sitecore Cloud portal. So I'll be going to one of the projects. Let me go to XM Cloud Demo Dev. Meanwhile, once the starter kit is getting downloaded, um, demo dev environment. Okay. So I have multiple websites sites created already. One, I mean, you can see a handful of sites that I've already created. And if you go to the developer settings, so let me take my SUG demo site. You can see the SDK version, content SDK. You can see all these env values and the parameter values that are already coming up. So that's different in the JSS application, and that's different for your content SDK. Also, if you notice your parameter name here in your JSS SDK, it starts from Sitecore H context ID, whereas sorry, the site name and the editing secret. But if you look here, there is a prefix next public underscore for your content SDK. That's the difference in the env values that you will be updating in your content SDK versus the JSS that you have. So all you need to do is you need to copy these values and you need to update it in the env values. So this JSS Next.js project is ready. Now, if you see, there is a head application created here now. You can see the Next.js head application already created. Once this is created, you need to install Sitecore CLI. Also, make sure that before you proceed, you do check the node version that is installed in your system. Make sure that you have the latest version available. So npm install -g stands for global installation, and you need to provide the package name that you need to install. So I'm installing the content SDK CLI. Meanwhile, I'll open this project in Visual Studio. I'll folder. So this is the head application that is already created by default, that is provided by Sitecore. You can see here the env files, the container env files. In the src, there are some by default components that are available. In the byOC file, you can see the bring your own components folder. And yeah, this is the folder. We'll talk more about the folder structure as we proceed. Okay, so now the CLI is installed, and now we've also installed the starter kit. We'll do one thing. We'll initially run a build command. So here to run the build, you need to run the npm run build command. You can see, right, there is an error that I am getting. Context ID is missing, API key is missing. So what you need to do is you need to you need to update your env files with all these values that you have. Okay. So create one more env file. I'll rename this remove local env file to, let's say, env.local. And again, going back to the portal, you can see in the developer settings, right? All these values are there. Context ID, H context ID, default site name, and the editing secret. You need to update these env values with with these values. So I'll update it once before I proceed. So I've updated the site name, I've updated the default language, the editing secret, the context ID. And now if I'll try to run the build a command again, it should build it for me. Okay, the project is getting built. Once that is done, meanwhile in the XM Cloud portal, if I show you, you can see the SUG demo site that is already there. And I go to the content library, content editor. You can see there is a SUG demo site already created, right? So what we'll do is, what it does is when we update the env values, it will connect to this site name, the site name that I have mentioned. The default language is English, and once you provided the editing secret and the context ID, uh, you will be able to fetch your data from the XM Cloud portal. So for that, so this was the npm. So the previous command that I ran was npm run build. So what it will do is it will only run your npm. It will only do the build of your head folder. If you want to start your project in your local browser, you need to do npm run start. So once that is done, your local head project, it will be connected with your XM Cloud instance and the site name that you have mentioned. So it is generating the static images for you. It's taking a while to load. You can now see the URL is provided, localhost 3000. If I follow this link now, whatever changes are there in my project, you can see, right? You can see the website coming up. You're getting this error because I had created a component in my, if you see my home page, I have created I've added a component in the renderings called my component. Since that component implementation is not there in our JSS project, you are seeing this error. Once you have this my component created in your React project, in your content SDK project, this error should not come. So now let us go with creating a component in component SDK. So once we do that, this error will also be resolved. So this is how you can scaffold a component. So what we are doing, so you can use this command, create component Sitecore tools, project component, scaffold, my BYOC component. I'll change the name of the component. So now running this command, what it will do is it will create your component in the components folder. Let's say you want to create a component in a different file. All you can do is provide the relative path before the component name. Let's say you have a marketing folder. All you need to do is provide the syntax. What it will do is it will create a component in the marketing folder. So that flexibility is also there where you want to create your components. So usually what happens when we work in the projects, we make certain changes in the folder structures. We might have our feature foundation layer and we might have multiple folders. So if you want to scaffold your component in a particular project, all you need to do is provide the relative path and it will create the component in the specific folder. Also, you see, right, there is also a BYOC components. Uh, in case you're familiar with XM Cloud, you can see whenever you're working on the page builder, you have the drag and drop options available for your components that are already present out of the box with Sitecore. So let's say you want to create a BYOC component. What you need to do is just pass the parameter called BYOC. 1 minute, let me. You all you need to do is pass the BYOC parameter. Whatever component that you have created, it will become a BYOC component. But remember, this needs to be deployed in your XM Cloud instance as well. Okay, now let us create the my component. Okay, so you can see right this uh, my component.tsx file is already created. Now, if I try to run the start the localhost command, what it should do is it should the error should not come since we have already created the component. So this error should not come my component. So let it build meanwhile. Also, if you're familiar with JSS SDK, you might remember that we used to import use Sitecore context that would bring in all the information from the route from the layout service. But here we use component rendering and the package is content SDK next.js. Okay, there is a error that is coming. I think it's a bug that is there when you download the by default folder. Also, you need to import the JSX stack. Still getting some error. Okay, delete 113. So this is the ESLint error that you get. I have the command handy. You can use this command. So in case there are any lint errors, once you run this command and if there is in any folder, it will take all the folders and all the TSX files, all the lint errors will be resolved. Error should not come. Also, if you see, the compile time is just 2.6 seconds. Like we mentioned, right, the difference in while building your Next.js application, while building the applications with the JSS SDK and the content SDK, the build time is pretty much less here. And you can see, right, the step generate static pages 31 of 31. This is coming because you've used SSG, static site generation. Almost 3000. So, okay, this error is still coming that your my component is still not visible. This is also because what happens in your JSS SDK applications, the component mapping takes there is a file called component builder where the component mapping is done automatically, but here you have to manually do it. So that comes in. Under the library folder, there is a file called component map.ts. So what you need to do is map the my component as well. So you need to import your file my component. Okay, so we need to map it here as well. So this is the way how Sitecore will understand that this is exactly the component implementation that we have done. Okay. Now if I try running the project once again, created components, we created the env files. Okay, meanwhile, once the build is till the build is generated, so here the request first comes to your path.tsx. So here path.tsx, the request first comes here. These are all the packages of the Sitecore content SDK to extract the path to identify which path, which routing we are supposed to do, and all the underlying request that Sitecode does, it happens in this particular file. And once this is processed, the particular layout is mapped and that particular page is loaded. So the first the request comes to part.tsx, then in part.tsx this layout is called, and in the layout file you have your code written where you have all the placeholder defined. Let's the header placeholder, the main placeholder, the footer placeholder. You can also create custom layouts in case, let's say, you have multiple sites running and you might want to have different layout for different sites. That can also be done. So you can identify whichever mode it is, whether it's in the editing mode or the production mode. All that data you will be getting from the layout data side code that is coming. This is also ready now. Okay, now if you see this component is coming, my component, right? It is because the data source that I had provided for this dummy, you see the data source, dummy. This dummy text is exactly what it is coming. My component. Sorry. Let me check the implementation. Okay. So this is exactly what I had provided in the component, and this is coming. Now let's say in case you want to read your files from your data source, that can also be done. All the data will be coming in the props. I'll also try to show whatever data is coming in the props, my console props. Let's see. So all I need to do is I need to print the props, and you will be able to see whatever data is coming there. So this is how you can create a basic components. But do remember that you need to map your component in the component map file as well. So there are some by default components already, out of the box components already created in the content SDK folder, where you have the navigation component, the page content components. You can refer these components in case you want to work with it. These have the child implementation, the multi-list implementation as well. You can go through all of it. And apart from that, the path.tsx, there is also one file called middleware.tsx, middleware.ts. You can consider this file as the pipeline that we have. You can write your custom code here. You can do your custom route setup, the multi-site setup, and in case you want to do any custom configurations based on whatever data you are getting from the API, all of that can be done here in the middleware.ts file. So I'll provide you the link where Sitecore has created some custom middlewares. You can go through it, and in case there is anything, you let me know. So if you see the console, right, you can see it is using the graph API edge via the edge context ID. This is the experience edge uh, experience edge API URL, and these are the context IDs and the client IDs that we are passing. And you can see all the data we are getting in the field, text field, dummy text. If there is anything in the rendering parameters, so I've created a parameter with the name SS. You can see this value is getting passed here. You can see, right? So all of these data is available. You can play around with all these data in your TSX file, the component file, and you can write your logic and you can perform any operations and pass these values and show it on the front end. So that's a bit about the basics of content SDK. There are some 2-3 blogs that we've written. In case you want to read, please go through them. We'll open up the question answer round.